though, the fallout from the firing of FBI Director Jim Comey now raising concerns about the timing of the Trump agenda in Congress. Though Comey himself says he is not dwelling on it, in a farewell letter to colleagues, Comey writes this: "I have long believed that a president can fire an FBI director for any reason or for no reason at all. I'm not going to spend time on the decision or the way it was executed. I hope you won't either." Joining us right now to weigh in, Republican Senator Mike Rounds of South Dakota. Senator, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to visit this morning.
First, I want to get your thoughts on the firing of Jim Comey. We've been having a discussion this morning here about the messaging. Now it seems that the president is on defense. What's your take on the firing and how it was executed?
Well, it's the timing of the firing surprised us. I don't think any of us saw that coming at this stage. But I think Mr. Comey is correct in his analysis. The president has the ability to fire at will. And in this particular case, this president knows how to do that.
Yeah, but, I mean, you didn't know it. The firing was a surprise to you and your colleagues on the Hill. Should you have been informed? Should you have had some idea that the president wasn't happy with Jim Comey so that the president doesn't find himself on the spot explaining why he did it? Now, it's because he didn't do a good job. Yesterday it was because he didn't handle Hillary Clinton's email scandal well. What do you think? I mean, is the messaging the failure here?
Well, first of all, with regard to whether or not he should have advised us that he was going to make that termination, think about how that would have played out. If he would have announced to the public and to us that he was going to make a termination before he went and talked to Mr. Comey, I don't think that would have worked.
Yeah, no, not telling you the termination, though, Senator,
yeah.
But one of my guests earlier, Lee Carter, who is a polling expert, said there should have been breadcrumbs left. There should have been some lead up so that people weren't so shocked, is really what I'm saying. Not that he would have told you before announcing it.
Yeah, look, we didn't know about it. And the American public, I suspect, for a while, if you were a Democrat, you wanted him fired. And then for a while, if you were a Republican, you wanted him fired. So I think along the way there has been an expectation that he was on thin ground to begin with.
What do you think about the firing and its impact on the agenda, Senator? Does Comey's firing and the fact that you're now talking about it and this is the conversation of the moment, this is the front page of every page today, the president with Russian executives, rather than the agenda, does this push the timeline back for health care and tax reform?
Well, the real question was, and I think some people had asked it, was the president doing this on purpose to take pressure off health care discussions and so forth? And I don't think that's the case. I think we're moving forward with ours. We've got right now the Senate Intelligence Committee, which is looking at a number of issues. This will be one of them that they'll look at. But the rest of us are going to still continue to focus on health care, tax relief, and so forth. And I think that's the way it'll work. We've spent the last couple of days with a huge amount of time focused just on health care and the new plan coming in from the House and the changes that we think should be made. So we're going to continue to focus on that. And long term, I think we'll do a good job. When do you expect a bill to come out of the Senate? I don't know that we've tried to set a timeline. I think what will happen is whenever we get to 51 votes, I think that's when they'll start moving activity forward. And we're not there yet. At least I don't think we are. I think we've got a lot of things to discuss. A lot of members of the Senate, they recognize how serious this is. It impacts, every American. And so we want to do this right. We want to have read the bill before we put it into law, as some people think it should have been done in the first place with Obamacare. And this particular one, we've got to bring everybody up to speed in terms of just exactly what it does to Medicaid, transitioning out of Medicaid into regular health insurance, promotion of the group market, trying to make it so that there's a fair playing field for companies to compete once again, and making sure that there's a parity between states that actually took advantage of the Obamacare strengthening of the guidelines for Medicaid involvement versus those that did not participate. And now we've got to bring all that together and fix it, and I don't think we can do that and transition it in less than about 2 to 3 years. Are you expecting the Senate you and your colleagues to push for some kind of revenue in this bill in terms of a tax increase? I mean, the House overturned the Obamacare taxes, but it's my understanding that the Senate feels that there needs to be some taxes in there. I don't think there's been any decisions made, but what we do know is that Obamacare and the transition out of Obamacare is going to be very expensive, and there's not much we can do about that. Our hands are tied with regard to that. There is a cost to that transition, and we will have to pay for that one way or another. That's not because we necessarily want to, but those are the facts that we have to deal with. And when we transition through that from a very expensive Obamacare that we want to get back down into a competitive market, there will be a need for revenue. And how we address that is yet to be determined. A lot of things are on the table. But what we really want to do is get to the point where normal Americans can afford to pay for their health care.
There's a new,
and that they know that there are some guarantees built in that they've become accustomed to.
So perhaps,
guaranteed portability, guaranteed renewability, and so forth.
So perhaps we see another tax in there out of your bill. Now, a new survey in the Wall Street Journal, 3/4 of entrepreneurs said that reducing the business tax rate to 15% is far more important than eliminating the estate tax. You're a member of the Senate Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee. What are your priorities when it comes to what you want to see in a tax bill? I know that's down the road after health care, but what are the priorities?
Well, I think we have to do two things. First of all, tax relief, and second of all, regulatory relief. Both have to happen if we want this economy to grow again. With regard to tax relief, we need to be able to allow more dollars to circulate back through the economy, and that means that we give less to the federal government over a period of time. I think personal income should come down a little bit, and I think corporate income should come down. I like Ron Johnson's idea. Ron Johnson, Senator Johnson out of Wisconsin, is suggesting that C corporation dollars actually pass through, excuse me, just like S corp dollars do. So it's a pass through back to the individual. And then I like the idea of actually just looking as a kind of a down payment on tax relief. What happens if we take every single tax rate and cut it by 2 points? Go from 10 to 8. From 15 to 13, from 25 to 23, 30 to 28, 35 to 33, and 39 to 37, and leave the tax code alone for the first step, and then allow ourselves some time to actually get in and make good decisions about how you begin the process of reducing and simplifying the tax code. Remember, I know that there's thousands of pages of tax code, but there are pages in there that take money, and there are pages that give money back.
Yeah.
And the one thing we don't want to do is make enemies by taking away parts of the tax code that actually put money back into the pockets of citizens.
So the president has talked about a 15% corporate rate. Is that just a negotiating point, do you think? Because as far as I'm hearing out of the House, they're really talking about a corporate rate much closer to 20%, even 22%. Where are you on the corporate tax rate? Where should it be? Down from, obviously, right now, it's 35%.
Two parts. First of all, we have to have something to repatriate the dollars from overseas. Clearly, we have to be very, very competitive in regard to that.
What should that rate be?
Second of all, well, actually, the numbers that I'm hearing are somewhere in that 10% rate.
Right,
10
okay.
to 15%
so the repatriation at 10%. What about the corporate rate?
Yeah, good question. As I say, if I had my way, I kind of like Ron Johnson's approach, which is pass it all the way through, zero it out, run it through, and allow that to be taxed at the individual level. Think about how competitive that makes us when it comes to C corporations. Now that wouldn't impact S corporations and so forth. You'd do that where it's taxed right now at the individual level. But I think there's some real merit in his proposal.
All right, we believe it there. Senator, good to see you. Thanks so much.